What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, November 15th, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 22:40 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we currently have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert. So we have a lot of nuclear attack options being broadcasted by U.S. Strategic Command to U.S. nuclear forces this evening. And in just about 30 minutes, we're going to have Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fighting on Netflix. So I'm curious who's going to win. I think probably Tyson will win. But nevertheless, we have had probably about a dozen nuclear attack options broadcasted in the last hour or so. So something is going on. We also had several high priority VIP planes of the U.S. government fly to Doomsday bunkers. We had two VIP planes go to Colorado Springs, which is where Cheyenne Mountain Doomsday bunker is located. And at the same time, we also had a VIP plane fly to Offutt Air Base, which is home of U.S. Strategic Command. There's also a Doomsday bunker there as well. All three of those planes took off from D.C. and went to those places at the same exact time. So something is about to go down possibly with all these nuclear attack options this evening and last night and the night before. And earlier today, we had 4 B-52 nuclear bombers airborne over the continental United States. And all the VIP planes airborne this evening. Something big could be going down soon. I don't know exactly what. But also Cheyenne Mountain is where NORAD is located. And Offutt Air Base is home of Strategic Command. So they can command the entire U.S. military from Offutt Air Base. Also, some very concerning footage released by U.S. Central Command. They released this video of 2 B-52 nuclear bombers flying over the Middle East in an undisclosed location. So they released this on their Twitter account. Obviously, this was a show of force, and these particular B-52s are nuclear capable. So we took 6 B-52s from our nuclear capable pool of B-52s, and we moved them to Qatar 2 weeks ago. Okay, so we have 46 B-52s officially as part of our nuclear triad, and we have over 70 total. Okay, but we actually picked 6 from our nuclear triad and moved them to Qatar. So that means these are potentially armed with nukes, or there's nukes at the base in Qatar, and these B-52s are on standby to deliver nukes to Iran if Iran does something stupid. Okay, but let me just play this video for you. And each one of these B-52s can carry up to 20 air-launched cruise missiles. And each of those air-launched cruise missiles carry the W-80 thermonuclear warhead. So looking closer at these B-52s, you can potentially see some bombs or cruise missiles attached under the wings here. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to tell because it's flying so fast, but you can see what appears like some missiles attached under the wings. Okay, the B-52 has 2 pylons on each wing, and then it has a rotary launcher underneath, so it can launch from the underbelly of the plane as well as from the 2 pylons on the wings. Okay, so this is pretty interesting and strange timing, and here we have all these U.S. government VIP planes heading out of D.C. earlier this evening. Okay, very concerning. These are all U.S. Air Force VIP planes. Okay, and here we have some other interesting flights. At the same time, we had this aerial refueler making hundreds of loops off the coast of Seattle. And then we had a nuclear war command and control plane off the coast of New Jersey at the same time. We also have a nuke sniffer plane that took off from Guam and went down to Indonesia, which is pretty interesting. Now, this is a very unusual area for nuke sniffers to go, and these nuke sniffers are special planes that can detect radiation in the atmosphere. They usually use these to detect nuclear tests, or if there's any kind of radiation leakage, like when Russia invaded Ukraine at first, and they occupied Chernobyl, and they were attacking the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. They actually sent some of these nuke sniffers to Europe to monitor the radiation situation. They can also detect nuclear-powered submarines, okay? So this is a pretty interesting location for one of these. And here's a closer look at that aerial refueler that was doing like hundreds of loops off the coast of Seattle. This is very rare to see. And speaking of rare, there was also this 3.0 magnitude earthquake in southwestern Poland, and it was only half a mile deep, which is extremely shallow for an earthquake. Most earthquakes are like over 10, sometimes 50 miles deep. This one was only half a mile deep, and it was a 3.0 magnitude earthquake, and it was in southwestern Poland. I do know that there's a base over there, a Polish military base. That's where Poland has one of their most elite cavalry regiments. So I don't know if they were testing some kind of munitions. I don't know if they were detonating some old World War II era bombs. But this is extremely strange for Poland. Poland never, ever gets earthquakes. And the location is right where there's a big Polish cavalry regiment, and actually where U.S. Army Brigade combat teams are stationed. So pretty interesting. We also had this German Navy reconnaissance plane patrolling the Danish Straits this evening. So NATO is definitely on high alert. And Israeli officials stated today that the Israeli attack on Iran in late October destroyed technological equipment that would make it very difficult for Iran to produce nuclear weapons. Apparently, they destroyed an active, top-secret nuclear weapons research facility in Parchin, according to 3 U.S. officials and 1 current Israeli official and 1 former Israeli official. So we actually looked at Parchin one night in the live streams. I was looking at Parchin with you guys in detail. We were studying this facility weeks ago before Israel struck Iran. And the Wall Street Journal said that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel plans to enter deep into Lebanon with his forces if Hezbollah does not accept a ceasefire. And Syrian sources reported this evening that there was an attack on the U.S. military base in eastern Syria. And President Biden, will meet the Chinese leader Xi Jinping face-to-face tomorrow. And Trump has named Carolyn Leavitt as the White House press secretary. And China has, for the first time, sent direct military aid to Russia in the war in Ukraine, according to EU intelligence shared by Joseph Borrell. The EU is preparing sanctions, including business bans and asset freezes for Chinese firms. Borrell called the evidence convincing, accusing China of feeding the beast, despite claims of neutrality. So this is very concerning, guys. Okay, we had all these countries already helping Russia. We had Chechnya. We had African countries. Now we have North Korea sending troops. And the other day there were some photos that showed North Korean self-propelled howitzers in Siberia heading towards Ukraine, okay? Now China is helping Russia, okay? North Korea and Russia signed a strategic partnership agreement, a military pact that calls for helping each other in the event of a crisis, and Russia and China have a similar pact as well. So you see how things are escalating? I told you guys this would happen, that the Ukraine war is just going to continue to escalate until there's mushroom clouds over Ukraine. I think it's going to end with mushroom clouds over Ukraine. I hope not. I pray not. Okay, we should all be praying that that does not happen. Okay, but it seems like it's going in that direction with North Korea and now China helping Russia. Okay, we're descending towards World War III. And Russian forces have captured several villages along the Russian border in Ukraine, in the northern Chernihiv region. They captured Gremyach, Kolos, and Novosilovka, and Muravi. Okay, so several villages along the Ukraine-Russian border have been captured by Russia in the Chernihiv region. Ukrainian military sources are saying that Russia has already launched operations along the entire Zaporizhia front. Okay, so Russia is making gains in Chernihiv. They're making gains near Kupiansk. They're making gains near Kurakove in eastern Ukraine. Now they're pushing into Zaporizhia. And all the while, Ukraine is trying to hold on to Kursk, which is the part of Russia that Ukraine occupied. So what Russia's trying to do is open up other fronts around Kursk to force the Ukrainians to leave Kursk and go to these other places. But so far, Ukraine is still holding Kursk. And Russian forces captured Antonovka in the Kurakava region. And Ukraine's ambassador to Israel says that Ukraine is already using radars that were provided to Ukraine by Israel. And the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, said that Russia is waiting for a proposal from Donald Trump to end the war in Ukraine. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Friday that Russia's war against his country will end sooner than it otherwise would have once Donald Trump becomes U.S. president next year. He said, quote, "It is certain that the war will end sooner with the policies of the team that will now lead the White House. This is their approach, their promise to their citizens," Zelensky said in an interview with Ukrainian media outlet Suspilne. "The war will end, but we don't know the exact date," he added. Zelensky said he had a quote-unquote constructive exchange with Trump during their telephone conversation after Trump's victory in the U.S. presidential election. "I didn't hear anything that goes against our position," he added. Okay, so Zelensky saying that the war will end sooner under Trump and that he didn't hear anything negative, that the U.S. was going to stop helping Ukraine and force Ukraine to capitulate, okay, which is what a lot of the Democrats have been saying and fear-mongering, that, oh, Trump is going to abandon Ukraine and pull all support for Ukraine and pull out of NATO. It's not going to happen, guys, okay? Remember, it was under Trump that Russia did not invade Ukraine, and as soon as Biden got elected, what did Russia do? They immediately invaded Ukraine a year after Biden got elected. They saw the way that Biden handled Afghanistan, because that was the first thing that Biden did, was pull out of Afghanistan. We left all that equipment there. And then literally like 2 months later, Russia moved 150,000 troops to the border of Ukraine. And they said that it was just an exercise. And I covered that live. People were freaking out. They thought Russia was going to invade, and then suddenly nothing. And then a year later, Russia invaded. So that was the first big test, was Putin moving all those troops to the border, pre-positioning everything, seeing how Biden reacted, and Biden failed the test. And that's why Putin ended up invading. And Russia told Austria that it's going to suspend gas deliveries starting Saturday. This was reported by Reuters. The suspension means that Russia will now only supply significant gas volumes to Hungary and Slovakia. And explosions were heard in the western countryside of Damascus this evening as a result of Israeli airstrikes on the Lebanese border areas near Syria. And the Israeli Defense Force stated that the Israeli Air Force carried out a fourth wave of airstrikes today on Hezbollah's terrorist infrastructure in the suburb of Beirut. Targets included headquarters, weapons warehouses, and other facilities used for planning attacks against Israel. Despite Hezbollah embedding these sites within civilian areas, the IDF took measures to minimize civilian harm, such as gathering intelligence, monitoring, and issuing evacuation warnings. So this is not something the mainstream media tells you or shows you. It doesn't show how Israel goes out of their way to try to make sure that they don't kill civilians in these strikes. Okay, they observe the targets for a long time. They try to warn the citizens ahead of time, and they try to strike at a time when there's no civilians around, okay? And the CDC confirmed Oregon's first human case of the bird flu in Clackamas County linked to a commercial poultry operation. Health officials report the individual experienced mild symptoms, fully recovered, and was treated with antiviral medication. So guys, if you're just having mild symptoms, why would you go on an antiviral? That seems a little bit overkill. And California has reported 5 new cases of H5N1 bird flu in humans, bringing the statewide total to 26. 54 cases have been reported nationwide this year. So it looks like bird flu and World War III are going to be the next 2 big events. And a magnitude 6.6 earthquake struck off of Papua New Guinea, and China is seeking to push forward in its quest to build the first lunar base, launching an in-space experiment to test whether the base's bricks could be made from the moon's own soil. A cargo rocket carrying brick samples blasted off late Friday from the Tiangong space station, part of Beijing's mission to put humans on the moon by 2030 and build a permanent base there by 2035. China launched the cargo craft Tianzhu 8 from the Wenchang Satellite Launch Center on Friday night to deliver supplies for its orbiting Tiangong space station, state news agency Xinhua said, citing China's space agency. Construction of a moon base is a daunting task. Any structure has to withstand huge amounts of cosmic radiation, extreme temperature variations, and moonquakes. And getting building materials there in the first place is a costly procedure. Building the base out of the moon itself could be a solution to those problems. Scientists from a university in central Wuhan province hope. They have created a series of prototype bricks made of various compositions of materials found on Earth, such as basalt, which mimic the properties of lunar soil. Slivers of those test bricks will be subjected to a series of stringent tests once they reach the space station. It's mainly exposure, said Zhu Cheng, a professor at Wuhan's Huangzhong University of Science and Technology. To put it simply, we put the material in space and let it sit there to see whether its durability, its performance will degrade under the extreme environment. The temperature on the moon can vary drastically between 350 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 310 degrees Fahrenheit. Its lack of an atmosphere means it is subjected to large quantities of cosmic radiation as well as micrometeorites, while moonquakes can weaken any structure on its surface. The exposure experiment will last 3 years, with samples sent back for testing every year. Zhu's team developed their prototype bricks after analyzing soil brought back by China's Chang'e 5 probe, the world's first mission in 4 decades to collect moon samples. The resulting black bricks are 3 times stronger than standard bricks, he said, and interlock without a binding agent. The team has also worked on the Lunar Spider, a 3D printing robot to build structures in space, some of which are conical. In the future, our plan is definitely to use resources on site, that is, make bricks directly from the lunar soil, and then do various construction scenarios so we won't be bringing the materials from Earth, said Zhu. It's an obvious thing to try because using materials already on the moon would be much cheaper, said Jaco van Loon, an astrophysicist at Kiel University in Britain. The experiments have a good chance of success and the results will pave the way to building moon bases, he told AFP. Beijing is far from alone in looking to build the first lunar base. China's planned outpost on the moon, known as the International Lunar Research Station, is a joint project with Russia. A dozen countries, including Thailand, Pakistan, Venezuela, and Senegal, are partners in the initiative, as well as around 40 foreign organizations, according to Chinese state media. The United States is aiming to put humans back on the moon in 2026 and subsequently set up a station there. As part of the U.S. preparations, researchers at the University of Central Florida are testing potential building bricks of their own made using 3D printers. The European Space Agency, meanwhile, has carried out studies on how to assemble bricks based on the structure of Legos. That's pretty funny. So pretty crazy, guys. China and Russia are going to be building this lunar base, and it's pretty funny how we're pretty far behind them. However, there are a lot of secret programs that are not disclosed by the U.S. government and by NASA, and there is a lot of evidence that points to the U.S. being in possession of some kind of warp drive that could be used to traverse long distances in space. And NASA has been working on various exotic propulsion technologies so that we could send astronauts or even just robots deeper into space, okay? And they have been working on a warp drive device, and there are a lot of leaks out there that point to the U.S. being in possession of some of this exotic technology that basically would allow us to traverse light years in very short periods of time, okay? Potentially opening up missions to our next solar system, which would be absolutely insane, Alpha Centauri, okay? But that's the latest breaking news that I have. Just wanted to update you guys on all this stuff going on. We have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert tonight with nuclear attack options being broadcasted. And we had all these VIP planes go to Doomsday bunkers tonight. So get prepared, stay prepared. Make sure you have a bug out bag. Make sure you have a nuclear war survival plan. Check out my nuclear war survival videos. I'll leave links in the top right corner. Check out my 24/7 live stream if you want to listen to the nuclear attack options and get regular updates. And also follow me on Telegram and Twitter. I post all my updates over there. Sometimes YouTube doesn't send out notifications. So if you follow me on Telegram and Twitter, you'll never miss an update. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.